The universe is not chaos, it is code. Cold, precise, mathematical code operating with absolute indifference to human emotion. Every star burning above your head, every atom inside your body, every second passing through your life is moving according to invisible laws that existed long before humanity appeared and will continue long after civilization disappears. That is the first truth most people are never prepared to confront. Reality is not reacting to feelings, opinions, or desires. Reality responds only to structure, to laws, to patterns, to equations so precise that entire galaxies obey them without hesitation. And yet most people live as if none of this matters. They wake up distracted, move through routines mechanically, consume endless noise, and never stop long enough to question the machinery behind existence itself. They are surrounded by evidence of mathematical order every second of their lives while remaining completely blind to it. The technology in their hands, the electricity powering their homes, the satellites orbiting the planet, the systems predicting weather, communication, and motion all exist because someone learned how to read the hidden language of reality. Mathematics was never just a school subject. It was the operating system of the cosmos from the very beginning. The disturbing part is not that this knowledge exists. The disturbing part is how effectively people have been trained to ignore it. Most minds are conditioned to fear complexity and worship convenience. Quick entertainment replaced deep thinking. Emotional reaction replaced observation. People want answers delivered instantly without discipline, without study, without patience. But the universe does not reveal itself to shallow attention. Nature rewards focus with understanding and punishes ignorance with consequences, whether those consequences are recognized or not. That is why so many people feel disconnected from life itself. They search endlessly for meaning while ignoring the structure beneath everything around them. They look for purpose without understanding the laws shaping existence. They chase temporary stimulation while their ability to think deeply slowly collapses. A distracted mind cannot perceive patterns, and a mind that cannot perceive patterns becomes easy to control, easy to manipulate, easy to mislead. The mathematical code of the cosmos is not hidden because it is impossible to see. It is hidden because most people never train themselves to look beyond the surface. Everything in existence follows patterns whether humanity notices them or not. Nothing escapes structure. The rhythm of your heartbeat, the movement of oceans, the collapse of stars, the growth of civilizations, even the rise and fall of economies, all obey systems built upon measurable relationship. This should completely transform the way reality is understood because it destroys the comforting illusion that life is driven purely by randomness. Chaos exists, but even chaos carries mathematical behavior underneath it. Probability governs uncertainty. Motion follows force. Energy transforms according to laws that never pause, never hesitate, and never negotiate with emotion. The frightening realization is that most people move through life without ever recognizing the patterns shaping their outcomes. They react emotionally to consequences while remaining blind to the systems creating those consequences in the first place. Repeated actions slowly become habits. Habits become identity. Identity shapes destiny. Yet people continue searching for sudden miracles while ignoring the mathematics of repetition unfolding every single day inside their own behavior. That is why transformation feels impossible to weak minds. They are obsessed with immediate results while reality operates through accumulation. The universe itself is proof of this principle. Galaxies were not formed instantly. Stars were not created in moments. The structures dominating the cosmos emerged through processes repeated across unimaginable spans of time with mathematical precision guiding every stage. Nature never rushes, yet nothing is left unfinished. That patience exists everywhere. Seasons change gradually. Mountains erode slowly. Evolution reshapes life through countless small adaptations repeated over millions of years. Reality builds power through consistency, not emotional bursts of motivation. Modern minds struggle to understand this because they have been conditioned for speed and stimulation. Endless scrolling has damaged attention spans so deeply that silence itself feels uncomfortable. People consume fragments of information constantly while rarely developing genuine understanding. They confuse exposure with wisdom. But knowledge without deep thought is intellectual decoration. It changes nothing. Real understanding only appears when the mind learns to observe patterns long enough for structure to emerge clearly. That is why the greatest thinkers in history were not merely intelligent. They were observant. They stared at reality longer than everyone else. They questioned assumptions others accepted blindly. They noticed hidden relationships where ordinary minds saw disconnected events. Mathematics became their tool for decoding existence, because equations revealed something terrifyingly beautiful. The universe is understandable. Not completely, not perfectly, but enough to uncover laws powerful enough to reshape civilization itself. Once patterns become visible, reality never looks the same again. The universe operates with terrifying precision, not perfection in the emotional sense imagined by human minds, but precision so exact that even the smallest imbalance can transform entire systems. A slight shift in gravity changes the path of planets. A microscopic variation inside DNA alters the course of life itself. A tiny fluctuation in energy inside the early universe shaped galaxies billions of years later. Reality is built upon variables interacting continuously, each one influencing outcomes with mathematical consistency, whether those outcomes are understood immediately or not. Most people completely underestimate the power of small things because human psychology is addicted to dramatic change. Instant results feel exciting. Slow transformation feels invisible. That blindness destroys potential more effectively than failure ever could. Every repeated action is quietly solving an equation in the background of life. Every decision adds weight to a direction. Every habit compounds into consequences that eventually become impossible to ignore. The future is rarely created by one massive event. It is usually constructed through patterns repeated long enough to become destiny. That truth is uncomfortable because it removes the fantasy of randomness people use to escape responsibility. The condition of the mind, the body, the finances, the discipline, the focus, all of it reflects accumulated behavior over time. Weak actions repeated consistently create weakness. Focused actions repeated consistently create strength. Nature applies this principle universally. Nothing meaningful appears without process. Forests grow slowly. Stars ignite through pressure. Even the human brain physically rewires itself through repetition. Reality rewards consistency with brutal honesty. The frightening part is how many people live carelessly while assuming consequences can somehow be avoided. They ignore the mathematics of their own behavior. Hours wasted daily become years lost silently. Constant distraction weakens attention span until deep thought becomes exhausting. Poor habits repeated casually reshape identity so gradually that decay feels normal. Then eventually the outcome arrives and people call it bad luck, unfairness, or misfortune, even though the equation had been solving itself the entire time. The cosmos does not react emotionally to these patterns. It simply reflects them. Cause creates effect with relentless neutrality. That is why discipline matters far more than temporary motivation. Motivation changes with mood. Systems remain. Mathematical structure remains. The universe itself demonstrates this principle endlessly through stable laws governing unstable events. Behind apparent chaos exists order operating patiently beneath the surface. Once this becomes clear, excuses begin collapsing. Outcomes stop looking mysterious. Patterns become impossible to ignore. And the terrifying realization emerges that life itself is constantly calculating results based on repeated behavior, whether awareness exists or not. There is something deeply unsettling about the laws governing reality. They remain true whether humanity accepts them or not. Gravity does not disappear because someone refuses to believe in it. Time does not slow down for regret. The expansion of the universe continues without concern for human confusion, fear, or opinion. This is one of the hardest truths for the human ego to accept because it destroys the comforting illusion that reality revolves around personal perception. The cosmos is not built around emotion. It is built around structure. That realization should create intellectual humility, yet most people resist it completely. Human beings naturally want reality to feel simple, controllable, and emotionally satisfying. But the deeper science explores existence, the more unsettling the picture becomes. Space bends, time stretches. Matter behaves like probability. Empty space is not truly empty. Particles appear and disappear in ways that challenge ordinary intuition. The universe repeatedly reveals that human instinct alone is insufficient for understanding truth. This is why mathematics became so important. Equations succeed where intuition fails. They uncover hidden relationships invisible to ordinary perception. Long before telescopes confirmed distant planets, mathematics predicted their existence. Long before particles were physically observed, equations revealed their behavior. The language of mathematics allowed the human mind to reach beyond biological limitations and interact directly with the architecture of reality itself. That should completely transform the way knowledge is viewed. Mathematics is not merely calculation. It is discovery. It reveals truths already embedded within existence, long before humanity became aware of them. The laws shaping stars and galaxies existed billions of years before the first human question was ever asked. Nature was already operating according to principles no civilization invented. Humanity merely uncovered fragments of what was already there. The disturbing part is how rarely people think deeply enough to appreciate this. Most individuals inherit beliefs without investigation. They repeat opinions without analysis. They seek certainty because uncertainty feels uncomfortable. But genuine understanding demands the opposite approach. It requires the willingness to confront confusion directly without escaping into simplistic explanations. Every major breakthrough in science emerged because someone tolerated uncertainty longer than everyone else. Curiosity survived discomfort long enough for deeper patterns to emerge. Weak thinking avoids complexity because complexity exposes intellectual limits. Strong thinking studies those limits instead of hiding from them. That difference separates passive consumers of information from genuine seekers of truth. The mathematical code of the cosmos demands patience, discipline, and intellectual honesty because reality refuses to simplify itself merely to protect human comfort. And once that truth is understood, the pursuit of knowledge stops being academic and becomes something far more profound. It becomes an attempt to see existence as it truly is, rather than as the human mind wishes it to be. One of the most destructive lies ever accepted by society is the belief that mathematics belongs only to geniuses. That single idea has silently crushed curiosity in millions of minds before genuine understanding ever had the chance to develop. People were taught to fear equations instead of recognizing what equations truly represent. Mathematics was reduced to memorization, exams, and mechanical repetition, while its deeper meaning remained hidden. But mathematics was never simply about numbers on a page. It is the study of relationships, structure, consequence, and pattern. It is the language reality uses to organize itself. Every aspect of modern civilization proves this, whether people recognize it or not. The buildings surrounding cities, the devices connected to global networks, the systems guiding aircraft across oceans, the algorithms shaping information and communication all emerged from mathematical understanding. Civilization itself is engineered thought transformed into physical form. Without mathematics, there is no modern technology, no predictive science, no advanced medicine, no satellites, no artificial intelligence, no understanding of energy, motion, or matter. Humanity's greatest achievements were constructed from invisible patterns first understood through disciplined thinking. The disturbing truth is that most people benefit daily from systems they fundamentally do not understand because they never trained themselves to think beyond survival and entertainment. They use technologies built by minds operating at levels of abstraction they were conditioned to avoid. That is not merely an educational problem. It is a psychological one. Weak thinking fears complexity because complexity exposes intellectual limitations. Instead of confronting those limitations, many people retreat into distraction and convince themselves deep understanding is unnecessary. But reality continues operating mathematically, whether awareness exists or not. Financial systems follow measurable principles. Health follows measurable principles. Time management follows measurable principles. Every repeated decision quietly compounds into outcomes just like variables inside an equation, producing predictable results over time. The terrifying part is how often people ignore these patterns until consequences become unavoidable. Years of poor habits suddenly become physical decline. Years of mental distraction become weakened focus. Years of financial irresponsibility become instability and dependence. Then people call the result bad luck, even though the process was unfolding gradually the entire time. The universe rewards awareness with clarity. The moment patterns become visible, ordinary thinking begins to collapse. Events stop appearing random. Systems become easier to recognize. Cause and effect become impossible to ignore. That shift changes everything because attention moves away from temporary appearances and toward underlying mechanisms. Victims focus only on outcomes. Thinkers study the structures creating those outcomes. And once the mind begins seeing reality through systems instead of emotional reaction, understanding becomes power. Not power in the shallow sense of control over others, but power through clarity, discipline, and the ability to navigate existence without blindness. Infinity destroys ordinary thinking because the human mind was never built to emotionally process endlessness. Every instinct inside the brain searches for boundaries, limits, and conclusions because survival depends on manageable understanding. Yet the deeper mathematics explores reality. The more existence appears to extend beyond every imagined edge. Galaxies continue beyond galaxies. Structures exist beyond structures. Space itself may stretch infinitely while time moves through dimensions. The human mind can barely conceptualize without collapsing into abstraction. That realization is terrifying because it forces humanity to confront its own smallness. Civilizations that once believed themselves to be the center of existence eventually discovered they were standing on a tiny planet orbiting an ordinary star inside one galaxy among trillions. Even that understanding may still be incomplete. Modern physics suggests the visible universe could be only a fraction of a much larger reality hidden beyond observation. Entire dimensions may exist outside direct human perception, while dark matter and dark energy dominate most of the cosmos despite remaining largely mysterious. And still, mathematics continues to describe these impossible scales with astonishing precision. Equations written on paper by fragile human minds predict the movement of stars billions of light years away. Mathematical models uncover invisible phenomena before technology confirms them physically. Abstract symbols created through thought somehow align with the deepest structures of reality itself. That should shake the foundation of ordinary perception because it suggests mathematics is not merely a tool invented by humans. It appears woven directly into the fabric of existence. This creates one of the greatest mysteries ever confronted by consciousness. Why should the universe be understandable at all? Why should patterns exist with enough consistency for minds made from atoms to decode them? The answer remains uncertain, yet the evidence is undeniable. Reality behaves mathematically at every scale humanity has explored, from quantum particles smaller than atoms to galactic structures spanning unimaginable distances. Most people never stop long enough to appreciate how extraordinary that truly is, because modern life trains the mind toward distraction instead of contemplation. Endless stimulation keeps attention trapped on the surface while deeper questions remain ignored. Complexity intimidates weak discipline. Simpler entertainment feels safer than confronting the vastness and strangeness of existence directly. But avoiding complexity comes with a hidden cost. The mind slowly loses its ability to think deeply enough to perceive reality beyond immediate survival and temporary comfort. The mathematical code of the cosmos reveals something both beautiful and unsettling. Existence is not empty chaos drifting without structure. Beneath everything lies order so immense, so precise, and so endlessly layered that human understanding may never fully reach its limits. Yet the pursuit itself transforms the mind forever. The human mind is not separate from the mathematical structure of the universe. It operates through patterns just like everything else in existence. Thoughts repeat, behaviors repeat, emotional reactions repeat. Neural pathways strengthen through repetition until actions once requiring effort become automatic responses running silently beneath conscious awareness. This is one of the most important realities people fail to understand about themselves. Identity is not formed instantly. It is calculated gradually through repeated mental and behavioral equations unfolding every day. What the mind consumes repeatedly begins shaping perception itself. Attention determines thought. Thought influences behavior, and behavior eventually becomes personality. That process is happening continuously, whether it is controlled consciously or not. Every distraction tolerated weakens focus slightly. Every difficult task avoided teaches the brain to escape discomfort. Every excuse repeated enough times becomes integrated into self-image until limitation starts feeling natural instead of constructed. The terrifying part is how invisible this process can become while it is happening. Modern society accelerates this problem aggressively. Endless streams of stimulation compete for attention every second, because attention has become one of the most valuable resources in existence. Technology companies study human psychology mathematically, designing systems optimized to capture focus for as long as possible. Notifications, algorithms, short-form entertainment, emotional outrage, and constant novelty are engineered to exploit neurological reward systems with incredible precision. Most people believe they are freely choosing what captures their attention, while their mental patterns are quietly being shaped by external systems built to maximize consumption. A distracted mind slowly loses the ability to think deeply. Silence becomes uncomfortable. Reflection feels exhausting. Complex ideas require too much patience. The brain adapts to speed and stimulation until sustained concentration begins collapsing. This creates a dangerous cycle because deep understanding requires uninterrupted attention. Without focus, observation weakens. Without observation, patterns disappear. And without recognizing patterns, life begins feeling chaotic and confusing, even when invisible systems are clearly shaping outcomes underneath the surface. The universe itself demonstrates that systems create predictable consequences. Human psychology follows the same principle. Repeated thought patterns influence emotional stability. Repeated emotional states influence physical health. Repeated behaviors influence future opportunities. Small actions appear insignificant in isolation but become life-altering through accumulation. This is why discipline matters more than temporary emotion. Motivation fluctuates constantly. Systems remain. Patterns remain. The brain rewires itself according to what is practiced repeatedly, whether those repetitions create strength or weakness. The mathematical code of the cosmos is reflected not only in galaxies and equations but inside consciousness itself. The structure shaping stars also shapes habits, focus, learning, and identity. Once that becomes clear, self-awareness stops being philosophical and becomes practical survival. Because a mind left undisciplined does not remain neutral. It becomes programmed by whatever patterns dominate it most consistently. There is a harsh truth that most minds instinctively resist. The universe does not owe comfort, fairness, or explanation to human expectations. It operates through laws that remain consistent regardless of belief, emotion, or desire. Stars collapse when gravity demands it. Energy transforms without hesitation. Time moves forward without concern for regret. Reality does not pause to accommodate human interpretation. It simply executes the consequences of its own structure with absolute neutrality. This neutrality is often misunderstood as cruelty, but it is not emotional at all. It is mathematical consistency. Every system in existence follows rules that remain stable under all conditions. That stability is what allows galaxies to form, planets to orbit, and life to exist at all. Without consistency, nothing could be predicted. Without prediction, nothing could be built. Civilization itself depends on the fact that reality behaves reliably even when individual outcomes feel unpredictable. Yet many people unconsciously expect life to respond to intention alone. They assume effort without structure should produce results. They believe desire should influence outcomes without understanding the underlying equations governing those outcomes. This creates frustration because reality never operates on wish alone. It operates on cause and effect distributed across time. Every outcome is the result of previous inputs interacting with existing systems. The uncomfortable realization is that suffering often emerges not from randomness, but from accumulated patterns ignored for too long. Small inefficiencies compound into major consequences. Minor neglect becomes systemic failure. Repeated avoidance of discipline becomes long-term limitation. The universe does not suddenly create these outcomes. It reveals them gradually through progression that has been building silently all along. Even in nature, nothing escapes this principle. Pressure creates transformation. Resistance shapes adaptation. Systems evolve only through sustained interaction with constraints. Diamonds form under extreme pressure over time, not instantly. Mountains rise through tectonic forces acting consistently across millions of years. Every powerful structure in existence is the result of accumulated force applied within a stable system of rules. Human life follows the same pattern. Every decision adds weight to direction. Every repeated behavior strengthens a trajectory. Every ignored pattern eventually expresses itself in consequences that feel sudden but are actually delayed calculations finally becoming visible. This is why awareness matters so deeply. Not emotional awareness, but structural awareness. The ability to recognize systems while they are still forming instead of only after they have fully expressed themselves. The mathematical code of the cosmos does not reward hope without structure. It rewards alignment with laws already in motion. Understanding this removes illusion and replaces it with clarity. Reality is not against anyone. It is simply consistent. And consistency, once understood, becomes the foundation for navigating existence with precision rather than confusion. The most profound realization about existence is not that the universe follows laws, but that those laws can be understood at all. A structure vast enough to contain galaxies, time, energy, and matter is also structured in a way that the human mind can decode fragments of its behavior. That fact alone challenges everything assumed about intelligence, consciousness, and reality itself. A finite mind emerging from a biological organism is somehow capable of interpreting the underlying patterns of an infinite system. That is not ordinary existence. That is participation in something far deeper. Consciousness did not arrive as an external observer watching the universe from a distance. It emerged from within the same system it now studies. Every thought, every perception, every moment of awareness is constructed from atoms governed by the same physical laws being analyzed. There is no separation between the observer and the observed in any absolute sense. Only layers of complexity interacting within one continuous framework of reality. That means understanding the universe is also a form of the universe understanding itself. Yet despite this extraordinary capability, most of human attention is consumed by surfaces instead of structures. Immediate experiences dominate focus while underlying systems remain ignored. Life becomes a sequence of reactions instead of an investigation into causes. The result is a strange paradox. Intelligence capable of decoding cosmic principles often remains trapped in cycles of repetitive distraction, unable to access its own depth due to lack of disciplined attention. This is where the distinction between passive existence and conscious thinking becomes critical. Passive existence reacts to events as they appear. Conscious thinking questions the structure generating those events. One responds to symptoms, the other investigates systems. Without this shift, life feels random and overwhelming because only surface-level outcomes are being perceived. But once patterns are recognized, even chaotic events begin revealing underlying order. The mathematical code of the cosmos is not merely external. It is mirrored internally within cognition itself. Memory, learning, decision-making, and perception all follow structured processes that can be studied, refined, and understood. Thoughts are not random flashes of meaninglessness. They are sequences influenced by prior inputs, emotional states, environmental patterns, and neural conditioning. Once this becomes visible, the mind is no longer experienced as chaotic. It becomes readable. That shift changes everything. Awareness expands from reacting to observing, from consuming to analyzing, from existing within patterns to recognizing them as systems that can be understood. And with that recognition comes a powerful realization. The mind is not fixed, it is structured. And any structure can be studied, refined, and redirected once its underlying rules are understood. Right now, two realities are unfolding in parallel within every moment of your existence. One is the surface reality, filled with distraction, noise, emotion, and temporary stimulation. The other is the structural reality, where systems, patterns, and consequences quietly determine the direction of everything that happens next. Most minds remain trapped entirely in the surface layer, reacting to events as they appear, never questioning the deeper mechanisms generating those events. That separation is not harmless. It shapes the entire trajectory of a life without permission or awareness. The mathematical code of the cosmos does not pause for attention. It continues calculating outcomes regardless of whether it is understood. Every repeated behavior is already building a future version of reality. Every thought pattern reinforced today becomes a structural input for tomorrow. Every distraction tolerated weakens the capacity to perceive deeper order. This process is not symbolic. It is continuous. The universe does not wait for understanding before applying its rules. It executes them constantly, silently, and without exception. This is why awareness becomes the most powerful shift available to human consciousness. Not awareness in an emotional sense, but awareness in a structural sense. The ability to recognize that outcomes are never isolated events, but the result of accumulated systems interacting over time. Once that recognition stabilizes, perception itself begins to change. Life stops appearing random. Instead, it begins revealing layers of cause and effect that were always present but previously ignored. Most people delay this realization because it requires responsibility. Not external responsibility, but cognitive responsibility. The responsibility of observing thoughts, questioning habits, and examining patterns without avoidance. It is far easier to accept surface explanations than to investigate deeper systems. But surface explanations never explain long-term outcomes. Only structure does. The universe is already responding to every action taken. There is no pause button. There is no neutral position. Even inaction becomes input within the system. Time converts every input into consequence with absolute consistency. That means every moment carries weight beyond immediate perception. Nothing is ever truly insignificant because everything participates in ongoing calculation. The final realization is not comfort but clarity. Reality is not chaotic. It is structured beyond imagination. And within that structure, attention determines direction, understanding determines perception, discipline determines trajectory. Once that becomes clear, excuses lose meaning and illusion begins to dissolve. The challenge is no longer about discovering the universe. The challenge is about finally seeing it without distortion. Because the code has always been active. The only question is whether it is being recognized or ignored while it quietly shapes everything that comes next.